clinician that didn't have a digital twin of yours. That's crazy. For all the reasons we already cited.
They are very important. For example, the outputs that are being generated, they should be explainable. They should be traceable. They should be, trustable, and you can always go back and ask, and it should be.
ChatGPT will not say no, and that's what AI is trained for. It will always come back with an answer, and that's sometimes the problem.
I'm actually very grateful to my besties that are joining, Harvey, Castro, and Edward Marx, as usual. And then we are very honored to have our two guests that are here. And they are amazing. Work has been done. So first, I'm going to introduce a little bit Dr. Dania Amir. She could actually, of course, given that I have been traveling, there are no updates from my side, but we're going to go ahead and catch up on the next thing. She has done some amazing work. She's a director of clinical AI internal medicine lead at Xcelenz. And she is actually, MRCP certified. Those who do not know, this is essentially a residency pathway in the United States when you don't do your internal medicine and then go from there. She has been working on this amazing product from GENEXIX CDT, clinical decision support, but it uses digital twin. The other counterpart that is here is Mr. Amir Hashmi, who comes from essentially a background of energy and then has designed 400 megawatts of energy solutions and now leading this effort. So, which is interesting that there's an amazing cross-section over here between how he is working through the problems that he had in his prior life and now applying those principles on clinical medicine, which is always very interesting to us because, as you know, Ed Marx is here, who has been multiple different solutions as board members in healthcare and has always propagated that we need to ensure that we bring all these intelligence from different areas into healthcare. And of course, Harvey Castro, who's putting all these solutions in space now. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Amir and Dr. Amir. And then before we move into our questions and everything, I would really appreciate if you can do a better job than me introducing yourselves and your company.
Interesting profile. I'm actually a mechanical engineer by profession, but the development is more in numerical techniques. And later on, during my PhD, I also employed that in aero engine multi-phase flows. So it looks a little bit different. But if you are aware of mathematical modeling, so this is what actually, if you talk about the real simulation, this is what actually it is. And that's why I was able to connect. So briefly, after my PhD, I spent like 4 years in Saudi Arabia. I was heading technical department, projects department, as well as business development for a local company who was very much looking forward to Vision 2020 at that time. And afterwards, I joined GE, first GE Power. There I was actually handling the operations, regional operations of Castro Wind Services. And later on, I internally switched to GE Distributed Power, which is now in New Genbach, and there spent about 6-7 years. And the last 1.5 years, this is where, after the advent of AI, I could see that AI could play a very interesting role in digital twins. And there were some very brief, let's say, sketches that I started to do, the complete system architecture, how a digital twin, a generalized system we can make, and how AI can help. So we are using actually a configurator, which we call, GENEXIX. GENEXIX actually comes from the word or the sentence, let's say, general engineering, neural enhanced smart engineering systems or smart industrial systems. So its background is industry.
So a little bit of my introduction. By profession, I'm an internal medicine physician, and I've been working for the last decade as an internist. Like Dr. Junaid introduced that I've done MRCP UK, and after that I was practicing independently. Having worked in the emergency wards, critical care units, be it ICUs, critical care, departments, and the medical wards, I think it was a pretty roller coaster ride. But yes, the advent of AI, it shifted us to that domain we are actually right now. But I think what brought me here in the world of AI was the constant rigor, of how we can make medicine more safe, more energetic, and more concretized in terms of contextual reasoning. So that's how the concept of digital twins, they triggered us, and that's how we just spent almost a year in the developmental phase, and now we are here with the product of its own.
Why digital twin in the first place rather than going through a regulatory process? Like, first of all, we do FDA approvals.
Same time, we took a very different approach. So we are not going actually with the computational model. We are actually going with a deterministic or mechanistic model, which we call the intelligence layer GENEXIX itself.
Astronaut in outer space, we literally had an issue with the government trying to take care of astronauts. This was in the 70s, early 70s. And the engineers here are like, how the heck are we going to deal with these people in space? They're having an issue. So they replicated that idea of what the parameters, the spaceship, and that gave birth to this idea of the digital twin.
My kids, they're building a house, right? And it's hard to visualize your home. But now they are recreating these homes in virtual spaces. Like you're in a virtual space, you got your goggles on, and you're able to walk through your home. And it's a replica of your physical home. But then you can make changes and understand the impact and feel it. You're like in it before you make an additional investment or a change.
True. That's exactly the thing, as well as just want to add car crash test, for example. So if you crash the cars all the time, you will end up spending a lot of money and also perhaps endanger people. So that's why you validate with few extreme, let's say, examples. Then you have a digital twin that can replicate, let's say, 80-90%, perhaps more, the same. And then you do all the testing, because you can do with
Usually when we are working in a clinical practice as a physician also, we have been using multiple AI tools also that are very, very good. They're excellent generating outputs, generating tests, and generating guidelines. But I was of the opinion that at some point in time, we all know that patients are dynamic. They're continuously changing. They're not working in silos. Like every organ is interacting with another organ, right? So if we talk about cardiovascular is interacting with renal is interacting with hepatic, and so on and so forth. So contextual medical reasoning was something that was missing when we were using XYZ AI tools. So they were giving outputs, they were giving text, but they were not giving how the systems are interacting. So there was the point where the concept of clinical digital twins they arose. And since we all know that clinical digital twins they create a virtual replica of the patients. So let's suppose that we are facing a complex patient in the ICU, and he's having multiple issues, right? Like there are cross organ body interactions going on, there are multiple cascade failures going on. So what this digital twin is going to do, it is going to pull or extract all the data from the EMR, let's suppose, or let's say if we enter it manually as well, and it is going to create a digital twin virtually right in front of you, but keep that in mind that the physician in the loop will always be there. So nothing is happening in an autonomous way. The physician in the loop, the consultant in the loop would always be there. So at the end of the day, this medical dashboard is going to augment the physician's efficiency. It is going to reduce the cognitive load, but at the same time, the decision is going to be in the hands of the consultant.
Multiple organ, let's say, interaction, then actually GENEXIX itself is an intelligence layer on top of AI. So it's actually not AI itself, but then it is asking AI to produce certain information.
So just to confirm, as far as architecture is concerned, you basically have an orchestrator, a conductor agent that basically goes into multiple different sub-agents. And those sub-agents, one of them would be the patient context itself, where the patient lives, which could be cardiology, etc. And then the second one is your medical corpus, which is essentially a PubMed directory that analyzes, does smart search, evidence production with citations. And then last,
Digital twin, a GENEXIX becomes in principle cardiologist, and these are all hard-coded things, and it is very smart. We have a Python backend. It's not only AI, and then it goes back and to and fro, and then it's actually asking AI what it needs to do, and it needs to follow certain instructions, and those instructions are hard-coded, and that we can also always look at, right? So probably
the intensive care department. So the value it gave out and the medical dashboards that it gave out, we got it validated into initially through different head of departments, through different doctors. For example, I'm a physician, so I utilize my own personal skills. Then we had a good network of physicians, specialists, intensivists, surgeons on board. They kind of read it incomplete, and let me tell you, it was a whole lot of critical analysis that we had done initially. It was just not like that, okay, we have a fancy dashboard that looks really nice, that looks really heavy on the display. Rather, it was a critical analysis that was done with the intent of finding problems or errors, right? And then, of course, we do cross check by using different platforms as well that are, quite advanced in terms of, giving a management plan. And this is how the initial validation got to. Like, we got it validated from 50 doctors, let's say, then it got increased to 60 doctors, and so on and so forth. And with whole body digital twin along with cardiovascular. So this is where I would like to share a real lifetime case scenario. We have got Dr. Harvey Castro as an ED physician, and you yourself. So it was a case of Whipple's procedure, post Whipple's procedure. Okay, and post Whipple procedure, day 7, there was a clepsy infection, right? The patient underwent septicemia. So the surgeon, who was also my professor, we were in good discussions with him also. So he said, okay, Dr. Dania, run this case, because I want to see this case from a medical aspect as well, because so many things from the medicine point of view is also working, because the patient is undergoing complications, septicemia, dehydration, renal failure, hepatic failure. And I also want to see, like, he developed this complication on the day 7, although until day 3 there was no anastomotic leak and the patient was doing well. So I want to see from the surgical aspect as well, like what went wrong and what needs to be done next. Either we should go for the surgical intervention first while maintaining the hemodynamics of the patient, or rather it's a complete medical case. So we ran it on our gastro digital twin, because Whipples come into that domain, gastrointestinal digital twin, and we also ran it on the whole body digital twin. So the kind of output it generated, the whole body digital twin made sure that it covers all the cascade failure analysis in loop, in amalgamation, in cross interaction. It gave you a holistic idea of the management plan based on the guidelines that we follow. Be it if you are in the USA region, you're going to follow the US guidelines. If somebody is in the Netherlands region, they're going to follow the Netherlands guidelines. And likewise, it generated a gastrointestinal surgical output as well, where the physician and the surgeon came onto the conclusion that yes, what we did was right. It was auditable, because of course, if the patient suffers a mortality, you have to face consequences, because you need to be sure that whatever you did, it was in the best practice for the patient, it was in the best interest of the patient, and you can trail back. It should be auditable. So it had
One is, what's the biggest killer of patients in hospitals today? Some might say sepsis. You know what I say? It's culture and governance, which is part of culture. That's the biggest killer of patients today. We have all this great technology, like what we're talking about right now, and we're not implementing it, and we're killing patients. As patients are dying as a result. So it's just crazy that no one's really calling it out and addressing it more aggressively. And then my provocative statement, and then we'll get to questions, is something that our guests were saying is, well, because everyone's always careful and they always say there's a physician in the loop. It meant to be an assistant, but why? Like, if this is truly, has this amazing capability, why do you even need, a physician directly in the loop, like controlling the whole thing? So, and like, why is it Waymo? We don't have to have a driver in the car or a space or whatever. Okay.
Have intelligence layer on top of that. That's where you have something like GENEXIX, and GENEXIX is able to decide autonomously because it then falls in a different category of FDA. At the same time, we want it to be tested as much as possible. Then let doctor decide if that it can make autonomous decision or not. So,
few things for the audience as well. We do believe at some point in time, physician work is going to change. And like the software work has changed, we are moving from coding to verification of code and then pushing it through. That is where the human in loop status is. And then at some point in time, as Edward Marx said, there will be less and less human in loop intervention. And interestingly, people that we are going to consistently use AI, and we need them. There's significant shortage of physicians, for God's sakes. Our jobs are not going anywhere. We just need these people to save these technologies to save lives.
So I think this is already happening. I would say West is a little bit lagging behind. We have seen China quite advanced, and there was a time when we were perhaps not taking it seriously, but now we have seen that there is a real progress. Yeah, take any aspect. It's a real progress. It's also changing the way we think.
I think my core DNA would always be very, very passionate for internal medicine. Like, this is something that I had been doing, and this is something I will be doing. But making sure that AI is being efficiently utilized in the best possible manner, so that what we are doing right now, we can make it multiply by 10 or multiply by 20 in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. But yes, the way we had been working, it is going to be completely changed in the next couple of months to maybe few years. This is not stopping, because see, if we remain conventional or orthodox, that okay, this is not coming, this is not coming, AI is already there. Sooner or later, we have to surrender to it, but we should make sure that we utilize the human power, the human brain, to make it something worthwhile and worth using. Like,
Word of the day is do not surrender to AI, learn AI. Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice day.